Joining us from CommSec now, Piotrowski, with a look at the markets today. How are we this morning, Thomas?
Pete, we're going to kick off with a loss of 1/3% if these futures are going to hold into the close. So we've got a little over an hour remaining of the after-hours session and indeed of the US session. So it's been an interesting one for Wall Street for the fact that this day brought with it the marquee event of the week in the form of inflation numbers that the US Central Bank looks at most carefully when they decide what they're going to do with rates. And importantly, this measure was in line with the market's expectations. So in broad terms, Pete, we're seeing a continued moderation of inflationary pressures when it comes to the world's biggest economy. And that has created this outlook for interest rates that has introduced that discussion about the prospect of cuts at some stage next year. It's part of the reason why you have seen long and short-term interest rates fall in the last month, and that's contributed to one of the best monthly improvements in the last year where US markets have been concerned, because they are on the cusp of ruling a line on the month of November. And so far, we've got the S&P 500 up by more than 8%, the NASDAQ up by more than 11%, and the Dow Jones up by just over 7%. So this session, just to put into context, we're seeing losses, modest ones. The NASDAQ down by around 0.8%, but the Dow's up by about 1%, notwithstanding those benign inflation numbers. So the point to make is that you'd be looking out over the course of coming days to see whether or not those better inflation numbers get traction. The other important outcome last night, Pete, was that OPEC and allied producers convened a meeting, if not virtually. This is the one that was previously cancelled. And they did announce some production cuts in addition to what they have previously had. And the disquiet here within the group is how they will adhere to those promises, because OPEC has been a group that has been marked by some rancor from time to time in terms of the people that make, or the groups that make up the cartel. And the market's a bit sniffy about whether or not they're going to stick to their promises where these output cuts are concerned. And that's why during the session at one stage you saw prices fall by close to 6%, which is a very substantial decline. At this stage we've got all prices down by about 2.5%. But that fracture in the narrative, the OPEC narrative, is quite important when it comes to oil prices.
All right. Tom Piotrowski, thank you.